Hello, amazing listeners. This is Holland Hubert calling in from Atlanta, Georgia. Summer is around the corner, and I am back in Atlanta for a summer internship. Nonetheless, the podcast continues. I want to welcome you to the Patriots Nesby Junior Chapter podcast. Let's keep it moving on the podcast, sponsored by Comcast, SA Tech, and the Richard Eaton Foundation. Today, we have Chanel Person with us. Chanel is a cosmetic chemist and owner of the Formulation Bar, a company that specializes in cosmetic formulation and unique beauty products. She has a Bachelor of Science degree in chemistry from Hampton University and a Master's of Business and Science degree in personal care science from Rutgers University. We are so grateful to have you here on the podcast with us today. Welcome and thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
While I did give a brief introduction, can you please let us know your name and your current occupation?
Yeah, thanks, Holland. So hello, everyone. My name is Chanel Person. I am a cosmetic chemist and owner of the Formulation Bar.
And can you share with us a little bit about what initially sparked your interest in chemistry and how that passion developed over time?
Yeah, so it goes way back. I was really interested in science when I was younger. I liked doing like the little science kits, the science fairs at school, but I didn't know what I wanted to do in science. And so as I got older, I started getting into makeup, wearing makeup more often. And so I started liking, like the makeup artistry aspect of things. But as I started trying new products, I noticed that there wasn't a whole lot of, companies that carried foundation shades that matched my skin tone. So I did, some researching, cosmetics and science. And at the time, I didn't know that cosmetic chemistry was a field. So I think that through that research, I kind of figured out, my niche and what I wanted to kind of study and move forward with.
Did they have that major for you at your college or university that you attended for undergrad?
No, they actually did not. So I went into undergrad. I knew I wanted to major in STEM. I knew that my end goal was cosmetic chemistry. And so I did some searching around to see, what should I major in terms of undergrad in order to get into the cosmetic chemistry industry. And so there were a few different things. I landed on chemistry for undergrad and then pursued a cosmetic science master's program.
Okay, so that kind of leads into my next question was how did your educational journey at Hampton University and Rutgers University shape your career path in cosmetic chemistry?
Yeah, so at Hampton, as a chemistry major, I learned a lot of the basics and background of chemistry in general. And then once I moved to Rutgers for grad school, because they had a specific cosmetic science program, they had a lot of classes tailored to cosmetic formulation, different cosmetic formulation systems, all those types of things. And they also had a lot of opportunities for getting into the workforce. So they offered like externship programs. So while you're in school, you could work with a company that was in the cosmetic science field. And they also always sent out internship opportunities as well.
So what inspired you to start the Formulation Bar and how did you bring this concept to life?
Yeah, so I've always been interested in cosmetic and science. And so I wanted to create a fun experience that was also beauty related that people could enjoy with their friends or their family or even their coworkers. And so I think that once I launched it, I started to get a lot of interest in it and people loved, coming and doing the hands-on part of making their own cosmetics.
Wow, and you offer that to everyone, is that correct?
Yep, anyone can join and set up a class. I've had people, reserve rooms if they wanted me to come in. So I also do travel events as well.
Mhm. Wow. And so how do you balance your responsibilities as a business owner and also your involvement in the Mid-Atlantic Chapter Society of Cosmetic Chemists?
Yeah, so I am a part of the Mid-Atlantic Chapter Society of Cosmetic Chemists. I did start out as a social media volunteer. So I, working full time, I have a business. And so I would, do the volunteering part after, normal business hours. And so a lot of the people that were volunteering with me, they would either be in school or, working full time. So a lot of our meetings were in the evening. So that worked out perfectly. Now I'm on the board, serving as the treasurer. And so now, we have board meetings, we have different events. And so I kind of just work my schedule around those. A lot of the people we work with are working professionals. So everybody, has an understanding of, schedules and, having board meetings, in the evenings or afternoons. So it works out pretty nicely.
That's amazing. And how did you essentially work up to that title? I know you said you started off as a volunteer, you ended up being a treasurer, but were there any paths in between that kind of led you to take that on that position?
Yeah, I think definitely being involved. So starting out as a volunteer for their social media, I was always at events. So I was, taking videos, taking pictures to post on our social media pages. And so at one of the events, I found out that, they're going to be looking for new board members. There's going to be a new kind of like election coming up. And so one of the spots that somebody mentioned to me that was open was the treasurer position. And so I was kind of new, so I wasn't sure if, I wanted to do it. There have been people, part of this industry for years. And at that point, I had graduated with my master's degree. And so they really encouraged me to apply. And so I applied. And it just, it worked out from there.
That is really good. And I know that you had mentioned getting your master's degree. I'm currently trying to get my master's in neuroscience, and I'm kind of wondering how, kind of like what the master's degree is like, your educational journey after graduating undergrad, going into grad school. Did you take any gap years going to get your master's, things like that?
Yeah. So I think my situation may be a little bit different from most people's. So I did go back to back from undergrad to my master's degree, but I was working full time while I was doing my master's.
Mhm.
So I did a lot of my classes in the evenings. I studied over the weekend, and then I would do my full-time job during the day. But a lot of the people in my classes were working professionals. And so we all had a similar schedule. Professors, some of them, had full-time jobs as well, and then just taught classes in the evening. So I think that the way that the program was set up, it was really nice for people who were also working while doing the master's program.
Wow. And I was just about to ask, how did you manage all that working and then doing your master's at the same time?
I did not have much of a social life,
Okay.
for sure. And then now, I do think that it was best for me to do it back to back because I was already in that kind of educational school
Mhm.
mindset. Because now it's like, would I have the time to do, school now? You kind of make the time, but I think to just already be in that kind of school mindset and, having homework and assignments due, I think that it kind of flows a little bit better.
Mhm. Oh, and then I know you also mentioned that you went to Hampton University. How did your HBCU background kind of shape where you are today?
Yes. So the biggest thing I will say is community and support. So I think that, I love that I went to a HBCU for undergrad. It helped me, to build a network of people, in the STEM field, network of people in the STEM field that also look like me. And so I think that that was key in helping me to continue to grow once I got into spaces where most of the people do not look like
Mm,
me.
mm,
Um, and so I did see that with like different internships. You go to an HBCU and then you go to an internship where most of the people don't look like you, but then you go back to school. And so I think after graduating, it's like, okay, you're not going back to school. This is the workforce, this is kind of what it may, look like. But I think that, that's part of me encouraging other young women, other young Black women to get involved in STEM. I think that, we can definitely increase our numbers in these spaces.
mm. And how did you manage that? Because I know that's something that I'm essentially nervous about because imposter syndrome, things like that. I'm always curious as to how, because I currently go to HBCU as well. And so how you kind of manage that once you get out. Because I feel like even just when I leave Atlanta sometimes and just leave, like I still experience imposter syndrome, even if it's not in the educational section or sector.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is probably like mentors and having, a friend or, somebody that you know that you can talk to who's also in that same space. So you guys can kind of talk about experiences and how, you may have handled an experience that helped. And so I think that, having somebody, a friend you could talk to and a mentor is definitely great, especially a mentor who may have navigated that kind of dynamic in the past.
Wow. So before I wrap up, I do have one more question. Can you describe a typical day in your life as a role of a cosmetic chemist and an entrepreneur?
Yeah. So I think that the role is, as an entrepreneur and as a cosmetic chemist, it's kind of half and half between like, your planning, administrative, business kind of tasks, and then your actual like hands-on things that you're doing. So I'll say I probably spend half my time or half my day planning things for marketing. So like social media content, looking into ingredients, so ingredient research, developing new cosmetic formulas, you know, figuring out what's new in the cosmetic industry, looking at papers and stuff that have recently come out and articles. And then the other half is the hands-on, like, actually developing the formulas in the lab, teaching the classes. So I like that it's half and half. No one day is the same. So I like the, versatility and the, day-by-day work.
Wow. Well, I want to thank you so much for joining us today. I really enjoyed having you on the podcast and being able to learn more about cosmetic chemistry.
Of course. Thank you.
Of course. And to all of our listeners out there, I hope you all enjoyed that interview. I want to thank each and every one of you for jumping on the Let's Keep It Moving on the podcast. I would like to thank our sponsors, Comcast, SA Tech, and the Richard Eden Foundation. If you would like to hear this podcast and share it with your friends, please go to Patriots Nesby Jr. website, www.patriots-ttc.org. And please send us an email at podcast@patriots-ttc.org and let us know what you think about our show. Until our next show, let's keep it moving on the Patriots Nesby Jr. podcast. This is Holland.
And this is Chanel, signing off.